Hello, my name is Tori and I am a doctor of physical therapy who specializes in pelvic dysfunction, which means I treat things that can go wrong around the pelvis, and this includes sexual dysfunction. After making videos all about the clitoris and all about the female G-spot earlier this year, I got a lot of requests asking me to make a video answering the question, do men have a G-spot? First of all, I am so honored and excited to be making requested content, so thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for requesting. And second of all, the answer to that question is yes, men definitely have a G-spot, and it is much more commonly known as the male prostate. But here's the thing about the male prostate. The anatomy and reproductive functions of the male prostate are very well studied and therefore very well understood in the scientific world. But its role in male pleasure, its orgasmic functions, have barely been touched by the scientific community. Even though we've known that prostatic massage can result in these non-traditional male orgasms, and we've used prostatic massage and the resulting prostatic orgasm in medicine for decades, real research into the male prostate and its relationship with male pleasure is essentially non-existent. The anecdotal evidence, however, the first-hand accounts of men who have studied their own prostates, is through the roof. The prostate, aka the male G-spot, is very real, and I want to begin today by walking you through what science does know and recognize about it. So we'll start today by talking about the anatomy and reproductive function of the male prostate. We'll then talk a little bit more about prostatic massage and prostatic orgasm and their roles in medicine, and we'll also explore the difference between erection, ejaculation, and orgasm. Finally, we will end by comparing the anatomical similarities between the male G-spot and the female G-spot and investigating some of the mind-blowing anecdotal evidence surrounding the male G-spot, the male prostate, and its role in male pleasure. As always, you can check the description below for timestamps if you want to skip around and for links to studies or any other resources mentioned in this video. I will also link the All About the Clitoris video and the All About the Female G-spot video below in case you're interested in checking out either of those. So as I said, the anatomy and reproductive function of the prostate, of the male prostate, is very well studied and therefore very well understood. I want to make sure that you have a solid understanding of its anatomy and its reproductive function before we investigate its role in pleasure. In order to do this well, we're going to have to zoom out and review the anatomy and function of the male urinary and male genital systems in their entirety. Let's begin by looking at a cross-section of the male pelvis. So we're going to imagine that this is Keith's pelvis and that he's facing in this direction and he's been cut down the center. You can imagine that with that sort of cut, his pubic bone would be here towards the front of his body and his tailbone would be here towards the back of his body. You can also appreciate the outline of the penis and the testicles, which would also be towards the front of his body, whereas his anus and his buttocks would be towards the back. So then let's name some of these internal structures. Let's start by really zooming into the urinary system. So here you have the bladder. This is where urine or pee is stored. When a man has to urinate, urine empties from the bladder through the urethra, which is a tube that essentially connects the bladder to the head of the penis. So when a man urinates, urine exits through the bladder, through the urethra, and eventually out of the head of his penis and out into the world. The urethra is the same tube that allows ejaculate to exit out of the head of the penis and into the world as well. On that note, let's move into the genital system. Here you can see the testis. The testis or the testes are where where sperm is created. On top of the testis in this purple color, I've drawn the epididymis. The epididymis is where sperm are housed, where sperm are stored, where they eventually mature. So you have the testes where sperm are created. You have the epididymis that kind of lives on top of the testis where sperm are housed or stored. And then you have another tube that I've drawn here in blue. This tube that connects the epididymis to the urethra is called the vas deferens. Now here, right before the vas deferens meets the urethra, we have another structure. This lighter blue structure here is called the seminal vesicle, and as sperm travels from the testis to the epididymis and through the vas deferens, the seminal vesicle adds seminal fluid to the sperm. Seminal fluid is actually what makes up the majority of a man's ejaculate. It's got different ingredients in it that make it a little bit easier for sperm to move, for sperm to swim, and also give sperm a little bit more energy. And it's actually the fusion of the seminal vesicle and the vas deferens that creates an ejaculatory duct. And that ejaculatory duct helps to propel sperm from the vas deferens into the urethra. Finally, we have this green structure here sitting at the base of the bladder and surrounding some of the urethra and some of the vas deferens. That structure is the male prostate. The reproductive roles of the male prostate are undisputed. It has two main functions. Function number one, it contains smooth muscle in it, and smooth muscle means that you don't have any voluntary control over that muscle, kind of like the smooth muscle in your heart or the smooth muscle in your stomach. You're not in control of that muscle, but those muscles still contract. In the same way, the smooth muscle in the prostate contracts and also helps to propel sperm down the urethra and eventually out of the head of the penis and into the world. So that's one function. Its other function is to add or secrete prostatic fluid into a man's ejaculate. Prostatic fluid ends up making up, I think, about 30% or so of the final ejaculate that exits through the head of the penis. So let's review everything one more time and just make sure that everything that we've discussed really makes sense. Let's tie it all together. We've got the bladder, which stores urine, and we've got the urethra, which is a tube that connects the bladder to the head of the penis. When a man urinates, urine empties from the bladder through the urethra out of the head of the penis and into the world. We've got the testes, which create sperm. We've got the epididymis, which houses sperm. And then we have the vas deferens, the tube that connects the epididymis to the urethra. And when it's time to ejaculate, it's the vas deferens that allows that sperm to travel from testes to epididymis and eventually to the urethra before exiting out of the head of the penis and into the world. Here, towards the end of the vas deferens, we have the seminal vesicle, which adds seminal fluid to the sperm and together with the vas deferens creates an ejaculatory duct to help propel that sperm into the urethra. And finally, once sperm is in the urethra, it travels through the prostate, and the prostate has smooth muscle contractions that helps propel it further along the urethra, and the prostate also adds prostatic fluid to the ejaculate. So, the male prostate is located directly under the bladder, and it has very clear reproductive roles. Its smooth muscle contractions help propel semen out of the urethra when it's time to ejaculate, and it adds prostatic fluids to that ejaculate. Fine, but what about its role in pleasure? What about its role as the male G-spot? Even though we haven't studied the male prostate through the lens of pleasure, we have studied it through the lens of medicine. And we've known that prostatic massage results in this non-traditional prostatic orgasm for a long time. In fact, in the medical world, before antibiotics and other pharmaceutical therapies were the primary frontline treatments, we used prostatic massage and the resulting prostatic orgasm to treat prostatitis, which is the swelling and inflammation of the prostate, and erectile dysfunction. This medicinal prostatic massage would result in an orgasm that did not involve the penis and could happen with or without an erection, as evidenced by using it to treat erectile dysfunction, and did not end in ejaculation, but would sometimes involve a little bit of milky white fluid being expelled from the penis. It was really difficult to figure out just how long prostatic massage and the resulting prostatic orgasm have been used in Western medicine, but I was able to find this 1999 study that revisited using prostatic massage as a treatment to prostatitis, and it reads, once the most popular therapeutic maneuver used to treat prostatitis, prostate massage, was abandoned as primary therapy almost 3 decades ago, which means prostate massage was still being used in the Western medical world in the 1970s, which means it is at least 50 years old, probably older than that. All of this to say that prostatic massage and the resulting prostatic orgasm are not new news at all. We have been using them and have been aware of them for at least the last 50 years, and still there is essentially no research investigating the male prostate and its relationship to male pleasure. What's really interesting to me about this whole idea of the prostatic orgasm is that for it to exist, which we know it does, we have to deconstruct how we traditionally think about male orgasm. We have to kind of deconstruct the traditional male orgasm. What I mean when I say that is, I think I can at least speak for myself and say when I think about a male orgasm, I tend to think about erection, ejaculation, and orgasm kind of as this one interwoven, interdependent mechanism. But a prostatic orgasm can be reached, can be achieved without involving the penis at all and without any sort of ejaculation, as evidenced by using it as a treatment for men with erectile dysfunction, which implies that erection, ejaculation, and orgasm could instead be these independent, individual mechanisms that do not rely on each other in order to exist. Even though we've not studied the male prostate and its relationship to male pleasure, we've studied the proposal of erection, ejaculation, and orgasm as 3 separate mechanisms, as 3 separate events. Kind of. My research led me to a book called Forensic Medicine: Clinical and Pathological Aspects. Hear me out. There is a section in this book by Dr. R.J. Levin entitled The Physiology of Male and Female Sexual Arousal, and it investigates this very proposal. Turns out Alfred Kinsey, in his 1948 book Sexual Behavior in the Human Male, also proposed that erection, ejaculation, and orgasm are 3 separate mechanisms in men. Oftentimes in the study of the body, when you are investigating a new proposal, when you're trying to figure out something new about the body, you can build a case by looking at pathology. You can build a case by looking at how the body responds or has responded to disease and dysfunction, and kind of use those responses to build pieces together that further support your case. And that's what Kinsey did in this book. He used pathology to build his case that, hey, maybe we do have some evidence, maybe we do have some proof, if you look at these examples of bodies that aren't functioning properly, that erection, ejaculation, and orgasm actually are 3 separate mechanisms. So here are the examples that he used to build his case. The first example that he cites is orgasm occurring without ejaculation in pre-adolescent males. So this isn't pathology, but this is looking at what happens in the male body when it's not fully functional, when it hasn't matured fully, and this is an example of orgasm happening without ejaculation. Second example that he cites, in some adult males, orgasm does not occur until a few seconds after ejaculation. Okay, so again, this isn't pathology, but this is him saying, hey, these experiences are had by some adult men and we need to make note of them. Example number 3, a few adult males who are anatomically incapable of ejaculation have orgasm. So this is pathology. Here he's saying, hey, there are men who exist who anatomically cannot ejaculate, but they still experience orgasm. Example number 4, he says males who have been prostatectomized, which means men who have had their prostate removed surgically, usually as a result of having prostate cancer, experience orgasm. So this is using pathology to build the case, and the reason that this is used is because because when you remove the prostate, the act of removing the prostate changes your anatomy in a way that makes it so that you can no longer ejaculate. That's just the way that the surgery is. That's just the way that anatomy is. If you want to learn more about that, you can check out my video all about prostatectomies here. But for now, trust me when I say if you get a prostatectomy, you can no longer experience ejaculation. However, plenty of men with prostatectomies who can no longer ejaculate do still experience and enjoy orgasms. And finally, Kinsey cites men who are deficient in gonadal hormones, that just means male sex hormones like testosterone, cannot ejaculate, but some have orgasms. So Kinsey gives us these 5 examples, and then R.J. Levin builds on these examples by adding some more cases of pathology. Levin cites paraplegics. Paraplegics are men who have spinal cord injuries that makes it so that they are paralyzed at some level of the waist down. So paraplegics can have phantom or dream orgasms without ejaculation. Levin also notes that when anti-androgen therapy is instituted, anti-androgen therapy is a form of therapy that counteracts those sex hormones like testosterone that we were talking about. So when anti-androgen therapy is instituted, libido is lost first, then the ability to have an erection, then the ability to orgasm, which is really interesting, right? So here are men experiencing orgasm without being able to be fully erect. Levin also cites diabetics. He says in diabetics, loss of erection occurs before loss of orgasm. And finally, he says that some men claim to be able to have multiple orgasms before finally ejaculating. So said another way, Levin is bringing to light that, hey, there are men who claim to be able to have multiple dry orgasms, we'll call them, orgasms without ejaculation, before finally having a wet orgasm where they ejaculate. All of this to say, there is good scientific evidence that's been around since arguably the 1940s that suggests that erection, ejaculation, and orgasm are in fact 3 independent mechanisms. Said another way, these 3 things can and do happen independently of one another, which further supports the idea that a prostatic orgasm is absolutely 100% possible. You can have this orgasm that exists without an erection and this orgasm that exists without traditional ejaculation. So to recap, the anatomy and reproductive function of the male prostate is well studied and well understood. Pleasure and its relationship to the male prostate is grossly unstudied, but we've known for decades that prostatic massage results in a non-traditional prostatic orgasm. And we've used that prostatic massage and resulting prostatic orgasm as treatment in medicine. And it is clear that this non-traditional prostatic massage is physiologically very possible, as evidenced by erection, ejaculation, and orgasm being 3 separate independent events. Since the studies to support the male prostate as the male G-spot do not exist, let's explore the similarities. Let's explore the anatomical parallels between the female G-spot and the male prostate. The parallels between the two are truly uncanny, but before we explore those parallels, let me remind you of something called homologs. Recall that homologs are structures that originate from the same developmental tissue when we are fetuses growing in our mom's bellies. These structures have the same embryological origin, and a really easy to grasp example of homologs is the nipple. Men have nipples even though they don't breastfeed children because nipples are pre-programmed very early on in development. And male and female breast tissue come from the same developmental tissue, making the male and female nipple homologs. Another, maybe less obvious example of homologs is the penis and the clitoris. If you want to dig into just how similar these two structures are, you can check out my video all about the clitoris, but for now, trust me when I say that they have significantly more in common. They have so many more similarities than they do differences. I specifically want to highlight that the head of the penis and the head of the clitoris are homologs. They come from the exact same developmental tissue, and their structure and functions are very very, very similar. Finally, a third example of homologs would be the male and female prostate. Now, in my video all about the female G-spot, we really unpack the proposal of the female G-spot actually being the female prostate. I don't have time to really dig into that proposal now, so for now, let's assume that that's true. Let's assume that the female G-spot isn't a magic button inside of the vagina, but is instead a gland that exists behind some women's bladders, just like the male prostate is a gland that exists behind male bladders. The reason I bring up these homologs, the reason that I bring up these similarities is because I really want to anatomically build the case for the orgasmic function of the prostate, since it is so unstudied. What if clitoral orgasms in women, orgasms that come from stimulating the head of the clitoris, are parallels of penile orgasms in men, orgasms that come from stimulating the head of the penis? And these penile orgasms are simply just what we've been conditioned to accept as traditional male orgasms. If that's true, couldn't it also be true that vaginal orgasms, which are experienced by women whose G-spot or female prostate is stimulated, are parallels to prostatic orgasms, orgasms that are experienced by men when their prostate is stimulated? Let me show you anatomically what I'm talking about. Let's revisit our previous male model cross-section here, and let's kind of focus in and change up the landscape a little bit. So I really want to highlight the bladder, the prostate, and the urethra, as well as the rectum and the anus. So recall that in men and in women, when a man needs to poop, poop is stored in the rectum, and then eventually when he has a bowel movement, that poop exits the rectum through the anus and then out into the world. So we are going to use my Play-Doh model and this see-through tube to really zoom in on the bladder, the prostate, the urethra, and the rectum. So here you can see I've made a Play-Doh model of the bladder in light yellow, the prostate here in green, and the urethra in darker yellow, and this see-through tube is going to represent the rectum and anus just as a simplified tube. So with this simplified model in mind, you can start to understand that you can directly touch the prostate by inserting a finger through the rectum and then pushing on the front wall of the rectum towards the pubic bone. And that's not because the prostate lives inside of the rectum, but rather it's because when you put pressure on that front wall of the rectum, you end up being able to touch the back of the prostate, the back of the base of the male bladder. If we change this cross-sectional pelvic model to a female pelvis, and this time we pretend that it's my pelvis and I'm facing in this direction and I've been cut down the center, which would make my pubic bone towards the front of my body and my tailbone towards the back of my body. Just a quick refresher, the big difference between the male pelvis and the female pelvis is the uterus and the vagina that live in the female pelvis. So you see here, I still have a bladder. I might have a female prostate, and if I do, it's located in the same spot that that male prostate is located, at the base and behind my bladder. I still have a urethra. Here I have a uterus and a vagina, and then towards the back, just like men, I also have a rectum and an anus. So I really want to zoom in on the bladder, the potential female prostate, the urethra, and the vagina. And I'm gonna do it with my simplified models here. So with this simplified model, we've got the bladder here in light yellow, we've got the female urethra in dark yellow, we've got in green the female prostate, and then this tube is representing the vagina, and then kind of where I am would be the rectum and the anus. So now that we've isolated the female bladder, the female prostate, the urethra, and the vagina, you can appreciate that you can directly contact the female prostate by putting a finger through the vagina and then pushing on that front vaginal wall. And this isn't because the G-spot is located inside of the vagina, but instead it is because when you put pressure directly on that front vaginal wall, you can touch the back of the bladder, which is where the female prostate would live. Anatomically, the case for the male prostate being the male G-spot is very, very strong. And while the formal research to support this case is lacking, the anecdotal research to support this case is tremendous. In fact, there is a wiki page that is devoted to the male G-spot and devoted to helping men discover their prostate and learn how to cultivate these prostatic orgasms, which are known in the community as super orgasms. Just to give you a taste of the anecdotal evidence that's out there, just a sampling of the potential experiences that are to be had with prostatic orgasm, let's visit that same wiki page. According to that page, men have described their experiences like this: pure bliss, ongoing orgasmic bliss, loss of all sense of time, floating, out of body, thought I was going to pass out, could not take anything more, and laughing and sobbing at the same time. I don't know about you, but this male G-spot orgasm or prostatic orgasm or super orgasm sounds pretty worthwhile to me. What's interesting to me is that in the world of sexual health, the clitoris and the G-spot have been and are being studied. The penis has also been very well studied, but the orgasmic function of the male prostate, aka the study of the male G-spot, is essentially untouched. And given the history of the medical use of prostatic orgasm, given the anatomical similarities of the female G-spot, and given the incredible anecdotal evidence that exists to support that this male G-spot is very real and is in fact the male prostate, it makes me sad, and it makes me wonder if the reason that the scientific world hasn't studied these potential orgasmic functions related to the male prostate is because that study would involve rectal insertion and rectal stimulation, and these events are still too taboo. The male G-spot is real, and in my opinion, any man with a prostate is entitled to forming his own opinion on prostatic orgasms. Whether or not a man enjoys prostatic stimulation and the resulting orgasm has nothing to do with his sexuality and nothing to do with who he is as a person. Just like whether or not a man enjoys penile stimulation and the resulting orgasm has nothing to do with his sexuality and nothing to do with who he is as a person. If you're interested and you feel safe and you've done your research and you feel ready, I say feel encouraged and empowered to explore your body. Get to know your prostate. Learn about your G-spot. On that note, know that I fully intend on making a separate video all about super orgasms, not only because that topic has been requested specifically, but also because I think it is a fascinating topic and I want to learn more about it myself. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like it, share it, feel free to comment absolutely anything in the comment section below, content suggestions, whether or not you want to see a video on male super orgasms, absolutely anything. I try really hard to read and respond to all of my comments. Don't forget to check me out on Instagram, and finally, please subscribe to my channel for more content not only about pelvic things, but also about life things. Thank you again so much for watching. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.
I'm excited to see this video.